Here are 30 of the best PC VR games you can play with a friend. This isn't all of them, so if you think I've missed any, please let me know in the comments. Phasmaphobia released on the 18th of September last year, and it's been a massive success. You can play with up to 3 other people, both in VR and out of VR, and it's one of the few co-op horror games. You play as ghost hunters, going into various buildings, trying to identify which type of ghost is in there. You use various ghost hunting tools, and you can even use your voice to call out the paranormal entity. Warplanes, World War II Fighters, recently came to Steam on the 4th of March, and it's only $15. It's a very fun combat flying game with loads of different missions which can be played solo and co-op as well. It also has PvP multiplayer. It uses motion controllers to virtually grab the flight stick, you can grab and aim a mounted gun, you can also drop bombs by hand or shoot a flare gun. Rec Room is free, it's available on all platforms with loads of different modes including quests that can be played with 2 other people. This is a perfect game for families with younger children. Zero Caliber is one of the few VR shooters trying to emulate non-VR games. You go through missions shooting enemies that actually shoot back and take cover. You have some cool set pieces and moments, and you can play through the entire game with co-op. It's still in early access, so it lacks some polish, but it's still a fun shooter that you can play with other people. Propagation VR is free to play single player. It's a horror wave shooter with some nice looking visuals and some massive spiders to kill. With a new update you can now play it with a friend, but you have to pay $10 for the co-op DLC. The Forest has a VR mode including full motion controller support. It's a survival game where you crash land on a remote island with some locals that want to eat you. It has a story with you trying to find your son and can be played from start to finish with 3 other people. Arizona Sunshine is an old zombie shooter, but it's still one of the best zombie shooters with co-op. You can play through the entire story and it'll take you about 4 to 5 hours, and the way that your buddy looks when he's moving around is so bad it's good. Payday 2 is a co-op shooter with up to 4 people completing heists. You can play it in non-VR and in VR, and it's extremely cheap at $10 with some intense gunfights. Windlands 2 is a VR game with fantastic movement that has you swinging through large open areas and taking down giant boss fights. You can play the game with 3 other people, but it's probably not best for people who are new to VR. When you get good at the swinging and moving around, it's a fantastic feeling of freedom. Downward Spiral Horus Station is a 4-hour-ish space adventure that can be played solo or with another player. The visuals look great in the headset with some nice lighting, the guns feel satisfying to use in 0G, and it has a cool movement mechanic where you use a grappling gun to pull yourself around, and later you get a thruster gun. This is one of those real hidden gems in my opinion. Onward is a tactical first-person shooter with PvP as well as 4-player co-op missions where you have to clear out a certain number of enemies on the map. Think Rainbow Six Terrorist Hunt mode. You have low health and the bullets deal high damage, so you need to use cover, communicate with your teammates and revive each other to survive, especially if you up the difficulty. Pavlov is another first-person shooter with PvP, but also several co-op modes thanks to various mods, including playing the World War II zombie maps from the Call of Duty series. Karnage Chronicles is a dungeon crawler with some light RPG elements. You can play with 2 other people, it's got lots of different weapons including both ranged and melee weapons, so you can mix things up and play how you want to. GUNHEART is a fast-paced looter shooter with some nice visuals and co-op support. This can be played with non-VR and VR as well, and it has some cool abilities like transforming your guns into a larger, more powerful weapon by bringing your hands together. It's got 9 campaign missions with boss fights along the way, which make this a hidden gem at a good price at only $15. Serious Sam 3 is an even faster paced shooter with an old school Quake-like feel. You're definitely going to need to have some strong VR legs for this one, but you can puke with a friend, which always makes puking better. Dead Effect 2 VR is a port of the non-VR version with a very long single player campaign you can play with 2 other people. It has lots of upgrades you can spend currency on, including augmented abilities, loads of weapons and many zombies to kill. Seeking Dawn is another single player VR game that can be played co-op. It has a really fantastic alien world that feels alive with lots of creatures, some friendly and some not. The game is a little bit grindy as you need to get lots of resources to get new weapons, but it's worth picking up on a sale if you have someone to play with. VR Dungeon Night is an older game from 2017, and as the name suggests, it's a dungeon crawler that has randomly generated levels, a level up system with different classes to unlock, and can be played with a friend. Battlewake is a fantasy naval VR game by Servios. The gameplay is fun, and they have several different captains with different weapons and special attacks. It does get repetitive after a while, but there's still some fun to be had, especially when you play with other people. I recommend grabbing this one on a sale. Carly and the Reaperman is a local co-op game where one person is in VR controlling the Reaper. You have to pick up and move platforms for the non-VR player who controls Carly. It's actually possible to play this game co-op online with some streaming software called Parsec. Full instructions are included on the game's Steam page. It's a great platform puzzler that really requires communication between the two players. CRYSIS VRigade is basically Time Crisis in VR with some simplistic visuals. It's hard as nails, but you can get a friend to help you, which makes the game a little easier. It has no smooth locomotion. You automatically move to a new location as you clear out enemies, so you have to move your body to get behind cover and then peek out and shoot. Ironwolf VR is a submarine game that can be played co-op. If you've got enough space, you can actually play the entire game in room scale for the added immersion. If you've ever wanted to experience drowning in VR, this is your game. Jet Island looks like poop, but if you can get past the poor visuals, this game is as close to Tony Hawk's in VR we have right now. You move around on a frictionless hoverboard which lets you travel at insane speeds. You can jump up ramps, fly through the air, you have wrist thrusters, and you can fire grappling ropes which help you swing and steer around the world. No Man's Sky needs no introduction. You do need a beefy PC to run it well, but if you can explore the universe with other people and share the grind. Raw Data is a very early VR game that has a story and levels that you progress through. There are 4 different classes to choose from with upgrades. It is a glorified wave shooter at heart, but it's still fun to play through with someone else. Vox Machinae, or Machinae, is a mech combat game where you control the mech using your motion controls. So you physically reach out to grab a virtual stick to steer, you grab the throttle, and you even have a horn that you can pull on. You can play PvP as well as missions against AI with other players. Zomday is a cheap zombie shooter with some pretty good visuals. Lots of zombies and other enemies, loads of weapons to unlock by earning XP, and it has full co-op support. These last 3 are Oculus exclusives. Landfall is a top-down stick shooter where you control one unit on a battlefield with gunfights and explosions happening all around you. You can also summon a mech at points and sometimes take over turrets which transports you into first person. It's a great game to sit back and play with a gamepad and can be played with another player. From Other Suns is a 3-player co-op shooter where you're in a ship trying to make your way back to Earth. You encounter space pirates and aliens along the way. You have to fight off or take over their ship to get loot so you can keep going. And lastly we've got Stormland, which is an open world co-op shooter where you control a robot that you can fly across the clouds, jump into the air and climb any surface. It has some of my favourite movement in virtual reality, and it's a lot of fun when played with a friend. And that's your 30 games. Let me know if I've missed any. If you found this video useful, you might want to consider subscribing and maybe checking out some of my other videos.